Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks a lot for joining. I know yesterday was a holiday for most of the parts, especially in Bombay. So today is a fresh day for most of us, Tuesday, which is normally not the case. Well, we are very thankful to you for taking out time and joining this call. We hope this session will be really very informative. A quick introduction about myself. I am Abhishek Mehrotra. I head investment products with HDFC Securities, and we are happy to have Tanmay with us. Mr. Tanmay Desai is the fund manager of SBI Automotive Opportunity Fund. Before I hand over the discussion, a quick introduction about him. He has experience of close to 2 decades now, and with 16 years in capital market. He is with SBI since 2008 as a research analyst, and he's been managing the fund called SBI Healthcare Opportunity and co-managing SBI Magnum Global Fund. Tanmay is has done his engineering from Narsi Monji, and he is a CFA charter holder. So, Tanmay, we have our audience. We all want to know what is this Automotive Opportunities Fund all about? As the name suggests, is it specific to automobiles, or it is thinking beyond that? I request you to keep the language mix English and Hindi, so that all the audience are comfortable in both the languages. Over to you, Tanmay, please.
Sure. Thanks, Abhishek. Hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Good evening to our viewers. Namaskar, and thank you for giving this opportunity to us to present the SBI Automotive Opportunities Fund. What I will do is we have a presentation. I will want to run the audience through the presentation, and with this presentation I want to emphasize on 3 points. One, why autos? Second, within autos what we are going to do, where are we seeing the opportunities, हम कहाँ invest करेंगे, and third is हम auto fund आज क्यों लेके आ रहे हैं. That's what I will try to address through the presentation. So without much ado, let me jump into one slide. I think ये एक बड़ी exciting slide है. Amongst the viewership, I am sure there are a lot of auto enthusiasts. I'm sure there are a lot of auto enthusiasts and would be taking keen interest, and surely some people would be owning a car or a vehicle in some form or the other. But I wanted to again bring to light some facets which are very interesting. Amongst the audience, were you aware that India forms only 5% of the global car market by volume and only 2% by value? For every 100 rupees that a car manufacturer actually makes, government takes away 50 to 75 rupees. That is how important the auto sector is for the system. इंडिया में जो कार बिकती हैं वो चाइना के मुकाबले में आधे भाव की है, एक चौथाई वर्सेस व्हाट इट इज इन द यूएस. इट क्लियरली शोज कि इंडिया में प्रीमियमाइजेशन का काफी स्कोप है, आगे जाके काफी स्कोप है रेगुलेटरी कंपोनेंट्स या रेगुलेटरी लैंडस्केप इंप्रूव होने की. सिमिलरली जब हम एक कार या कमर्शियल व्हीकल की बात करते हैं, then there are a lot of forging components that go in a vehicle, and India today has 11% of the global forging capacity. Europe and China are the other two big markets, and what we keep hearing is आज सभी जने चाइना से दूर जाना चाहते हैं, यूरोप में पावर क्राइसिस हो रही है. The natural choice for a lot of companies is becoming India as far as some of these core manufacturing areas like forging, casting, etc. is concerned. अगर मैं नाइजीरिया की बात करूं तो 70% ऑफ द टू व्हीलर सोल्ड इन नाइजीरिया कम्स फ्रॉम इंडिया, और वहां पे एक टू व्हीलर टैक्सी के जैसे यूज होती है, which only means that the replacement cycle is very short, less than 2 years, and hence the demand for a two wheeler is very strong as far as a market like Nigeria is concerned. Today, you and me are willing to wait for a car with a sunroof. And you would be surprised to know that last 5 सालों में सनरूफ का पेनिट्रेशन 5 गुना बढ़ गया है. उसके बावजूद भी इंडिया में सनरूफ का पेनिट्रेशन आज भी यूएस जैसे देश के मुकाबले में आधा है. सिमिलरली, जब हम कार की सुंदरता के बारे में बात करते हैं, we talk of alloy wheels. It gives the aesthetic feel to the car. और इंडिया में आज alloy wheel का पेनिट्रेशन 40% के आसपास का है वर्सेस डेवलप मार्केट जहां पे 80% का है. एंड माइंड यू, दिस 40% was 20% few years back. आज हम और आप इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल के बारे में बात करते हैं. एक डिसरप्शन आएगा और कंपोनेंट्स एक ऑब्सोलीट हो जाएंगे, काम के नहीं रहेंगे. नाउ बट अगर मैं वायरिंग कंटेंट की बात करूं तो एक इलेक्ट्रिक टू व्हीलर में वायरिंग कंटेंट 2 गुना है, फोर व्हीलर इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल में 8 गुना है. ये स्लाइड दिखाने का महत्व ये है कि ऑटो में आज वॉल्यूम ग्रोथ एज वेल एज प्रीमियमाइजेशन की कहीं सारी अपॉर्चुनिटीज हमें अवेलेबल है ऑटोमोटिव अपॉर्चुनिटीज को खेलने के लिए. नाउ गोइंग टू द बिगर पिक्चर इज व्हाट और व्हाई ऑटोज. तो ऑटो में हमारे पास 3 प्रेवलेंट थीम है हाईलाइट करने के लिए. पहला, अंडर पेनिट्रेशन. इंडिया में आज 34 कार बिकती है 1000 पॉपुलेशन पर और 120 टू व्हीलर बिकती है 1000 के पॉपुलेशन पे. सिमिलरली ट्रक की अगर मैं बात करूं, then the penetration is as low as 3 on 1000 people. So there is huge scope for the penetration to increase in a country like India. और अगर आप चार्ट देखेंगे यहाँ पे, we are comparing it with a lot of global economies, both developed as well as developing. In fact, even in case of two wheeler आप देखेंगे, we are comparing with economies जहाँ पे टू व्हीलर काफी सारी बिकती है. So it's a very natural comparison that we are trying to do. Also, if I jump a couple of slides, I wanted to highlight a comparison of India with some of the other successful economies like China and South Korea. और ये एक बहुत पावरफुल चार्ट है. ये जो ग्रीन लाइन है ये इंडिया है, ये ब्लू लाइन जो है ये आपका चाइना है. एंड चाइना में एक हाइपर ग्रोथ फेज आया था. इंडिया आज वहां पे है जहां पे चाइना, साउथ कोरिया जैसे देश उनके हाई ग्रोथ फेज के पहले थे. और ये हाई ग्रोथ फेज में चाइना में पैसेंजर कार इंडस्ट्री ग्रू बाय 26% एंड इन साउथ कोरिया द ग्रोथ वाज एज हाई एज 18%. और ये एक लाइक टू लाइक कंपैरिजन है क्योंकि आज इंडिया में पर कैपिटा इनकम इज अराउंड $2,500 वर्सेस साउथ कोरिया की अगर मैं बात करूं इन 1985 it was also at around $2,500 just prior to their hyper growth phase. सो कहने का ये मतलब है कि अगर इंडिया के नॉमिनल जीडीपी पे अगर हमें भरोसा है दैट इट विल ग्रो एट 8 to 9%, then the question is not whether growth will happen. The question is when is the growth going to happen. The second argument is on affordability. यहाँ पे we have tried to show the per capita disposable income over the last 10 years, which has grown at around 9% CAGR. And in the same period, when we are comparing the average selling price of a four-wheeler and a two-wheeler, it has grown at around 6 to 7%. Very clearly, affordability has gone up. आप और मैं आज एक प्रीमियम कार बाय करने की चाहत रखते हैं, हम अप ट्रेंड कर रहे हैं. और अगर हम सब कंपनियों का भी केस लें, देन उनके नए नए मॉडल लॉन्चेस में भी काफी सारी प्रीमियम कार हमें दिखने में आती है. तीसरा आर्ग्यूमेंट है ऑटोमोबाइल एक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर खेलने का भी अच्छा मेथड है. और यहाँ पे हमने दिखाया ये कि अगर हम सब मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनीज का रेवेन्यू लें तो इन द लास्ट 9 years it has grown at 9% CAGR versus auto and auto ancillary companies which have grown at around 12% CAGR. Auto is not only a proxy to play the manufacturing theme, auto is also one of the fastest growing sectors within manufacturing, and with the support by the government through FAME and PLI and other such schemes, this sector being mature enough will only try and capitalize on this opportunity more and more going forward. Now that brings me to the second question for today, which is what are we doing within the automotive theme? तो हमने क्या किया है, हमने ऑटोमोटिव थीम को 4 बकेट में डिवाइड किया है. ओरिजिनल इक्विपमेंट मैन्युफैक्चरर्स, ऑटो एंसिलरीज, इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स और एक्सपोर्ट अपॉर्चुनिटीज. एक एक करके मैं इसे यहाँ पे मैं थोड़ा इलेबोरेट करूंगा. Now, when we are talking about the OEMs, this is the entire universe. It comprises of two-wheelers, three-wheelers, commercial vehicles, as well as the passenger car industry. And it's a very, very large universe per se. And if we try and talk about the various vehicle categories, prior to COVID, the passenger car industry grew by around 7% CAGR. And post COVID, we have seen an acceleration on growth because everybody wanted to own a personal vehicle to maintain social distancing. But the point also is this: a lot of this growth has come on account of premiumization also. If you see, the share of SUVs in FY12 was around 8%. Aaj that number is in excess of 50%. So there is scope not only for volume growth within the passenger car industry, but also the premiumization trend to kind of keep continuing, as you and me constantly are endeavoring to own a premium vehicle today. When we talk about two wheelers, आज the number of two wheelers being sold 15% लोअर है इन कंपैरिजन टू वो FY19 के पीक में जहां पे थे. तो यहाँ पे अगर हम रूरल सेंटिमेंट इंप्रूवमेंट की बातें कर रहे हैं, आई थिंक यहाँ पे टू व्हीलर में काफी ग्रोथ आने की संभावना है. दैट्स वन. यहाँ पे भी कुछ प्रीमियमाइजेशन हो रहा है, बट एट अ लोअर पेस. बट द बिगर आर्ग्यूमेंट इन टू व्हीलर्स इज गोइंग टू बी ऑल अबाउट वॉल्यूम ग्रोथ, विच हैज अ लॉट ऑफ स्कोप फॉर इम्प्रूवमेंट. The third question is on commercial vehicles. It's a cyclical industry. Nobody denies that. But what we have observed in every subsequent cycle, the peak is 30% higher than the previous peak. And as a consequence, today we are almost at the previous peak or slightly higher than the previous peak, thereby indicating significant headroom for growth within the commercial vehicle industry also. It could be a temporary pause this year, it's a year of election. But if one is truly believing that India में infrastructure का growth होगा, अगर India में manufacturing footprint बढ़ेगी, तो commercial vehicle goods transport करने के लिए और चाहिए. Now coming to the second opportunity, which is auto ancillaries. Now this is an even more exciting an opportunity, if I may say so. Auto ancillaries में यहाँ पे हमने दो diagram दिखाए हैं, one for a four wheeler, one for a two wheeler, and यहाँ पे हमें काफी सारी opportunities हैं to play the auto ancillary theme. Most of these components are also valid in an EV world, except the products that go into engine as well as in the exhaust system. And when we think of an auto ancillary, they can be suppliers to a single OEM, they can be suppliers to multiple OEMs, they can also be suppliers to multiple vehicle categories, जैसे कि बजाज हो गया और मारुति भी हो गया. They can be a manufacturer of multiple components, and within each component they can upgrade the technology and look for higher content. जैसे 10 साल पहले हमें कार दिखती थी जो सब में हेलोजन लगता था, आज हम देख रहे हैं कि कार में एलईडी भी लगती है, एंड एलईडी का कंटेंट 2 से 3 गुना हेलोजन से ज्यादा होता है. तो एक ऑटो एंसिलरी कंपनी कैन ग्रो अक्रॉस OEMs, अक्रॉस व्हीकल कैटेगरीज, कंपोनेंट्स एज वेल एज टेक्नोलॉजीज, thereby giving us a very diversified way of playing a high growth opportunity within the automotive space. We have seen a lot of regulatory requirements coming. Government wants to reduce the number of accidents by almost 50% till 2030, जिसके कारण we have seen seat belts becoming compulsory, airbags भी बढ़ गए हैं, electronic stability control और anti-lock braking system. These are just some examples of mandatory inclusions in a car. But importantly also is premiumization. जैसे मैंने आपको एक अलॉय व्हील का एग्जांपल दिया या सनरूफ का मैंने एग्जांपल दिया, आप ऑटोमेटिक ट्रांसमिशन का भी एग्जांपल ले लीजिए. इफ यू आर ड्राइविंग इन अ सिटी, देन देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ पेन on the feet if you are driving in traffic, as a consequence of which the penetration of automatic transmission is going up. Similarly, for the beautification of the car, we are observing lot of changes in the instrument clusters. पहले analog cluster आता था, अभी semi digital आ रहा है. कल TFT screen आएगी, which is like an iPad screen, where the content in many cases is anywhere between 2 to 8x higher across a lot of these premium components. यहाँ पे ग्रोथ सिर्फ पेनिट्रेशन बढ़ने का नहीं है, कंटेंट इंक्रीज का भी है. द थर्ड इज इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स. नाउ द इकोसिस्टम अभी बन रहा है. आज भी ईवी एज एन इकोसिस्टम काफी नेसेंट स्टेजेस पे है. With the push by the government, lot of OEMs have launched new products in the market, as a consequence of which the EV penetration has been going up. As you can see, in two-wheelers, the penetration has gone up to 5%, and in case of PVs, it has gone up to 2%. But important is not that we are at nascent stages, but the companies are willing to invest today for disruption, if I may say so. And as a consequence, even with auto ancillaries, we are seeing the EV order book going up by anywhere between 2 to 5x for a lot of these ancillary companies. I think the companies of today are preparing for a better future within the electric vehicle space. Lastly, another exciting opportunity is through exports. Today, the cost of raw material in India is one of the cheapest versus even developed economies. The cost of labor is one of the cheapest. Cost of electricity is also very low, again compared to many important manufacturing economies. But most importantly, if you would recall, we jumped from BS4 to BS6 as regulations. Thereby आज जो इंडिया में कार बिकती है from an emission standard point is at par with what it is available globally. और इसका कहने का ये मतलब है कि इंडिया आज एक सिंगल कैपेसिटी डाल के इंडिया का बिजनेस भी केटर कर सकती है और ग्लोबल बिजनेस को भी केटर कर सकती है। एक्सपोर्ट्स में हमें अपॉर्चुनिटीज दिख रही हैं टू व्हीलर एक्सपोर्ट्स में और एंसिलरी कंपनीज में, जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग ओरिएंटेड सेक्टर्स हैं, जहां पे एक्सपोर्ट्स एज अ परसेंटेज ऑफ सेल्स काफी इंप्रूव हुए हैं। अगेन यहाँ पे काफी सारे सेक्टर्स हमने हाईलाइट करे हैं, जैसे फोर्जिंग्स, कास्टिंग्स, बेयरिंग्स एंड टायर्स, जहां पे एक्सपोर्ट्स एज अ परसेंटेज ऑफ सेल्स काफी इंक्रीज हुए हैं। Now that brings me to the third question for the day as to why are we coming up with auto as a theme now. Now very clearly auto is a long-term opportunity that we are a believer in. Howsoever, in spite of the returns that one has seen in the last 1 year, let me correct a couple of myths. I think there is still a lot of headroom for auto growth to happen, and second also on the valuations, which I will touch on the next two slides. The first point is we have tried to show the various cycles within the automotive industry, and here what we are showing is the weight of auto and auto ancillary companies in the indices like BSE 100 and BSE 500. When the financial crisis came, auto stocks fell. Then there was a very good phase of growth, after which we saw hyperinflation. We saw a lot of regulations coming like BS4 going to BS6. And then also because of COVID, all the auto stocks and the auto sector as such did not do well. In the last 2 years, they have started performing, but still at 7%, the weight is lower than what the peak weight that we have seen in FY17, FY18. And I think there is a lot of headroom to catch up. And if one is truly a believer in the long-term argument on under-penetration and affordability improving, the argument that one can also make is why can the next peak not be higher than the previous peak, which we of course have seen in the past. Second, the valuations today are at par with historical averages. Even when we look at Nifty, auto premium versus Nifty, the premium is at around 9% versus historical premium at around 10%. So valuations ना महंगे हैं ना सस्ते हैं, और अगर हमें ये बिलीफ है कि आज हम कहीं तो मिड साइकिल में हैं, then there is a lot of growth within the auto and the auto ancillary companies to capture and hence allow investors to make money even at the current point in time. लास्टली अगर आप देखें तो ऑटो एज अ थीम हैज बीन अ वेल्थ कंपाउंडर. हमने लास्ट 20 साल का हिस्ट्री दिखाया है यहाँ पे, जिधर ऑटो हैज कंपाउंडेड मनी at 18% CAGR. It has compounded by 29x in the last 20 years versus 15 to 17x for Nifty 50 and Nifty 500. And very interestingly, in 59% of the cases, Nifty Auto has delivered more than 15% CAGR returns on a 5-year rolling basis. That's a very healthy success ratio if you truly ask me. Let me very briefly present the Automotive Opportunities Fund from SBI. We have discussed the four broad opportunities. OEMs में हमें डाउन साइकिल एंड अप साइकिल बराबर से कैप्चर करना होगा. Auto components may, we believe there is a significant headroom for growth. It's a very structural long-term story. और यहाँ पे we'll have to identify the entrepreneurs which have the right aspirations and have good order book and capital deployment strategy. Electric vehicles आज nascent stages पे हैं. What we truly believe is अगर हमें electric vehicle की opportunity खेलनी है, then we can also look at international stocks. हमारा fund हमें leeway देता है that we can invest 35% of the fund also into international stocks, and here we can look to buy companies the likes of BYD, Tesla. We can also look to buy a lot of what you can say auto technology kind of companies also. And lastly, on exports, where we are also very bullish, a lot of companies have invested in India in the last few years, and dividends are yet to kind of pan out for a lot of these companies. This is our benchmark and this is our universe. Benchmark is comprising of 16 stocks. Predominantly benchmark large cap है, और अगर हम हमारा universe देखें तो 134 कंपनी है. 134 में से 20 ओरिजिनल इक्विपमेंट मैन्युफैक्चरर्स हैं, और बाकी सब कंपनियां ऑटो कंपोनेंट कंपनीज कहलाएंगी, या ट्रेडिंग या डीलर कंपनीज भी हैं कुछ कुछ. बट यहाँ पे काफी सारी कंपनीज हैं, हमें अपॉर्चुनिटी देती है ऑटो को एक डेडिकेटेड वे में खेलने के लिए. ये कुछ OEM प्लेयर्स हैं. काफी सारे हमारे व्यूअर्स will be associating with the names currently on the screen. Some of the players are also not listed, but interestingly these are some of the auto component companies that we have in our in our universe, and this is just a small subset. यहाँ पे और बहुत सारी कंपनियां हैं to play the auto component story, which I believe is very very exciting. So this is the conclusion to our presentation. We wish to create a concentrated market cap agnostic portfolio, और यहाँ पे we will have a top down approach to identify the cyclical trends within the automotive space, and we also have a bottom up approach to identify companies with good growth potential, brand building capabilities, as well as companies that are able to adapt to evolving landscape in the auto space. होता क्या है, काफी बार कंपनियां बनाती हैं एक प्रोडक्ट, but then that product becomes obsolete tomorrow. If they are not going to change, they are going to die a natural death. So we have to also identify companies that are able to adapt to the evolving landscape in the auto space, and then the basic filters that we will have with regards to earnings quality, cash flows, and capital deployment will also feature in our stock selection strategy. Now that kind of concludes my presentation to the audience, and of course I'm happy to take questions now from the team.
Request all the viewers who have joined us through WebEx, they can post their questions in the question box which is mentioned on the WebEx, and those who have joined on YouTube can also post their questions. We will try to cover maximum questions possible. In the interim, while everybody posts their question, just wanted to understand, because I think timing wise there can't be a better time for this fund, because by the time you will create the fund, the results will be out, the general elections results will be out, and whatever is expected, the story will unfold. I'll not be biased to any single party, but that's how market is looking at. Any specific views on election, what the election will have impact on this industry as such, or markets, before we go down to the core subject?
I think, of course, early days as the voting kind of is happening across cities and states, and well, there has been a lot of volatility in the markets also over the last few months. As you rightly did point out, most of the guys are of the opinion that it's a conclusion that has less to be debated. It's only about how much majority one is kind of looking at the end of the day. But having said that, to your core point, very clearly, with the closure of the NFO by the 31st and us having the funds at the right point in time to deploy, it's always better to invest with certainty rather than during uncertainty. If there is volatility, it can give us an opportunistic entry point here and there. But yeah, clearly this sector is something that has seen benefits from the government. A lot of support has happened in certain spaces, and no reason to believe that will not continue in the future also. In that context, and with our belief in the opportunity from a longer term basis, we are happy to deploy with more certainty in our heads immediately post the outcome of the elections.
Okay. So all the investors who have joined, I just wanted to touch upon why it at times it makes good sense to invest in new fund offering in the initial stage. Because currently the portfolio is getting built up. Once the funds gets collected, the fund manager has the flexibility to deploy the money over the period of normally it is to in a period of 1 month to 2 months. Well, though SEBI gives them little more freedom, but
Yeah.
वो देखा गया है कि normally वो लोग अपना पैसा जो भी investment amount है, that is not invested on a single day. So in this market where we are already touching 22,000 plus levels, and one day is may matter a lot. Here the investment is spread across basis the price point the fund manager wants to buy, and he keeps a track of it, and then he purchases and creates a portfolio. So a fresh portfolio gets created with new ideas, no backlogs, and then the portfolio is available for investors to participate. So that gives an advantage during investing in a new fund offering. There is some questions on where to how to invest. In the minimum investment amount on this fund is just 5,000 rupees, but I'll request it, and the ideal allocation to any sector fund should be 5 to 7% of your overall portfolio. Obviously, if you like the theme, you can go beyond it, but that's the ideal scenario where one should invest into. But yes, minimum amount is 5,000 rupees, which one can invest in this fund. In terms of exit charges, I'm getting some basic questions, so I'll try to address them myself instead of passing on to you, Tanmay. So
No
1%
worries.
is the exit
Absolutely.
load. Yeah, 1% is the exit load if a client wishes to exit. And so there's a question on what will be the fund size, Tanmay, if you want to say something on that.
I think it's a very initial days. However, I would like to put on record that we have been on road shows from the week preceding the fund launch also, and the response has been very good. Most places that I have visited, and I've visited 3 to 4 cities now, and more to follow. The response has been very good. People are wanting to understand the idea in detail, and to that extent they are appreciating the long-term growth opportunity available in the auto space. The ability the fund gives us to go down the market cap curve by being a thematic fund, and hence invest in a lot of auto ancillary companies, is also that's very appealing to a lot of investors, because you are able to participate in the theme in a very holistic manner. But I'll refrain to kind of comment on the size. If one has to go by what happened with the energy fund that we had launched 3 months back, we did collect
Right.
in excess of 6,000 crores. But let me not preempt the outcome, because it's just the second day with regards to the official launch of the product.
So to all the investors, I think there are certain questions in term which are very basic in terms of understanding. Just to tell you, although investors who want to participate, it is available on a website. You can get in touch with your relationship manager also, and he can guide you how to participate in this fund. Uh, Tanmay, there's one interesting question. What is the correlation between the sector and the banking sector or the finance sector, or largely how this sector has played vis-a-vis the larger market? I believe you have covered it. This sector has all provided an alpha of 3%, but still.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think it's an interesting question with regards to drawing a correlation with the banking sector. Let me give a statistic which I was also reading. The vehicle finance penetration for some years back, which used to be around 24%, has jumped to in excess of 50% as we speak. Definitely owning a vehicle has definitely become cheaper in that context, with regards to the support that banking as a sector has kind of provided. However, having said that, while this doesn't indicate any great correlation between the two, because banking will have exposure to many segments beyond autos. It could be housing, it can be personal loans, etc., etc. But when we do hear from a lot of banking channel companies, especially vehicle finance companies, we do hear that the rural sentiment has been improving. And that kind of plays an important role on certain sub-segments within the automobile industry. Case in point being two-wheelers, where a lot of growth used to come from the rural segment. That has not truly happened in the last few years. And if that does happen, it will kind of give a boost to the two-wheeler industry in the near to medium term. Similarly, the small car growth has not been very, very exciting. A lot of growth has happened from premium vehicles. And again, that can be, a kind of an indicator with regards to growth expectation within the four-wheeler industry. So, in some sense, the banking sector will have correlation to the broader economy, and to that extent, similarly, certain pockets of the auto industry also will have, particularly two-wheelers and commercial vehicles. As far as passenger car is concerned, it is a little bit more secular, and hence the correlation is not that strong. Similarly, when we think about exports as an opportunity, it's an added opportunity beyond the growth cycle or the economic cycle that we are worried or excited about in various time frames as far as the domestic market is concerned.
Right. In fact, there was some similar questions, I'll say. So there are some questions on passives and approaching this segment through ETF. So first thing, obviously, there's a merit for both the approaches, but definitely if you are going through an active choice, uh, you get what the fund manager feels with the best of his efforts and best of his research in terms of participating in a strategy. And over and above that, this fund also have a flexibility to invest 35% of the assets into international market in the similar themes, which is definitely a plus and which cannot be copied through any ETF, as per my understanding. So that gives a plus on this side. Also,
If I may
there
just
are
add
questions.
one point
Yeah,
to
yeah,
that,
yeah, Tanmay, please.
if I may
Ji.
just add one point to that, when we look at the Nifty Auto, which in some sense will be a resemblance to, say, a passive investment, it largely comprises of large caps. 80 to 85% are large caps, 15 to 20% are the small and the mid caps. And we have seen the growth journey for small and mid caps is not only higher, but it is also longer. So an active share kind of an strategy through active fund management will give the option to the fund manager, and hence also consequently to the investor, to participate in the small and the mid cap opportunities in a more meaningful manner, is what I would add.
Yeah, very rightly said. Because yes, whenever there are few large players in a specific theme, I could make out this happens in IT, this happens in many sectors where a few large players take the lion's share and they become the sector representative themselves rather than the entire stocks within the sector. Okay.
Right.
There is one more question for investment need a demat account or anyone can buy. So I think that this question is specific to us. So if you are an HDFC Bank customer, you can buy this fund through Invest Now. You go to mutual funds and there's an Invest Now section where there also you can buy. You don't need not have a demat account, but if you are an HDFC Securities customer, HDFC Sky customer, or so this fund is available on our website, on our app, both the apps, and you can also check with our RMs and they will help you to participate in this fund. So, Tanmay, we are also getting some questions on in terms of which all companies do want to participate. Obviously, that cannot be disclosed. Uh, but anything any light which you want to share, which how the sectoral spread will be within this, obviously manufacturing or
Right.
yeah,
So I will share two aspects of our strategy. One, as I
yeah.
was mentioning, the benchmark is around 80-85% large caps, and the balance is small and mid caps. Now, most of the OEMs are large cap in nature, and most of the auto ancillaries are small and mid cap in nature. Our endeavor is to have a higher active share towards small and mid caps, and as a consequence, the ownership within auto ancillary companies will definitely be higher than the representation which the benchmark in some sense is offering. That's one thing that I can surely highlight. Second, what we are observing is, as I was also mentioning, at a given point in time, not all vehicle categories do well. For example, today we are seeing a lot of growth expectation in two wheelers. Similarly, we are seeing a lot of growth expectation in exports. So while I'm not guiding towards it, but there are certain pockets where at any given point in time we will probably be more positive, and hence the fund may have a more higher skew towards some of these opportunities, so to speak. Similarly, you talk of premiumization in PVs. There are a lot of auto ancillary companies which are participating in that gamut of things. And to play the premiumization in PVs, maybe we'll look to have a lot many auto ancillary companies in our portfolio. So I don't have a straight answer towards a particular company or a segment, but hope I have been able to give some color in terms of how we are thinking in terms of constructing the portfolio.
Rightly said, Tanmay. Uh, so looking at the time, I think we, since this it was a 30 minutes kind of a schedule, uh, just to summarize to all our customers, in terms of the fund, SBI Automotive Opportunity Fund, it's available right now. It's a new fund offering from the house of SBI, one of the best AMCs currently, and it is available till 31st. You can apply now or within before 31st at any point in time. It is the fund aims in participating into auto and auto ancillaries, auto components, premiumization, export-oriented companies, and also international companies which are participating in the same sector. So please look into this fund. Understanding the risk profile is very important. So please ensure that since it is an equity investment and fairly sectoral, so it will be fairly volatile over the short term. Long term, definitely the past performance as mentioned during the presentation by Tanmay, the CAGR of auto manufacturing has been 12%, and knowing that the economy where we are in and the GDP expectations which are across, we expect this fund to do decently well in this sector. And any specific question which is left out, I'll request you all the investors to reach out to your RMs, and we will be happy to address that. Thank you, Tanmay, and thanks all our investors for taking out time to join this call. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks a lot, Abhishek, for hosting us.
Thank you. Thank you. Operator, we may close the call. Thank you.